Okay, it's time to get back into that magic with a good old sorcerer. And speaking of a magic trick, instead of a rabbit, I pull out a cat. Yes, look, we're on camera. You're the star of this show, aren't you? Oh, yes. Now that you made your appearance, huh? Go play. Go find your brother. Alright, so anyway, now that the star has shown up, time to get into the sorcerer. Pretty much that innate abilities. Who the hell needs books when you got talent? That's pretty much what the sorcerer is like when it comes to magic and everything. So now, getting into the class, the primary ability is charisma, and then you get like with hit points, you get D6. Now I know like in previous iterations, like with like the like third edition, like a lot of your spells and casters had like D4s hit points and everything. So like the good old trope, like you sneeze and the wizard dies, and so that's kind of like the good old trope and everything. So I could kind of see why they're like upping it to like a D6, for instance. So now the saving throws, they got Constitution and Charisma. Skill proficiencies, you can choose two of Arcana, Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Persuasion, or Religion. Uh, Now, the sorcerers have weapon proficiencies of simple weapons and none for armor training. And they do have like a suggestion in like a little like for instance right here the good old 2024 player's handbook with the sorcerer in like the beginning box. They do have like a couple of suggestions for starting equipment and everything. So to kind of go off on like a little tangent to get started, there has been like kind of like a variant that people consider if sorcerers are using like in a sense their blood and their like a body and it's more their magic is more innate. People do make the argument that instead of charisma, you're more using constitution as your spell casting. So now, if people would like, I could probably touch upon that further. But like they could, it could be made an argument that you could switch it up to say it's constitution, because you're pretty much drawn on your innate blood ability and everything. So of course that goes on to another tangent of good old like blood magic, and like of course you do see that more in the games like World of Warcraft, but that's like a whole nother topic and everything. So, but for as it's written, the primary ability is charisma, and your spellcasting is based on charisma. Now, that's not to say you can't, oh, what he's talking about with Constitution makes more sense. Let's switch it and everything. So there's nothing in here in this book that says, hey, this is since it's as written, this is you have to do it this way. So that's just an idea to do it. So now just like all the other classes, you do have the class in the sense what I say is the class table. Basically, this pretty much goes through like the whole list, like what you get when type of deal. So we'll go through like the levels. So obviously, going from level 1 to 20, when you start off, of course it all depends. You could start off at level 1, which is the usual starting place, but sometimes a lot of places people will start off at level 3. Like for instance, my group and I, our first campaign, we went through one of the Kano Keep Mysteries one shots, and we all started off at third level, and that's usually when you get your subclass, and that's across the board for all classes. Is level 3, you get your subclasses, and that's pretty much when you start to really get into the nitty gritty details of how you can create your characters and everything. At least the way I see it and everything. So, but we start off with level 1. Now, your proficiency bonus, pretty much for every class, will usually start off at +2. It does work its way all the way up to +6 and everything. So you get at level 17, you do get that max of +6 and everything. So now the sorcerer has what's known as sorcery points, which you get kind of at a second level. But first level, you get spell casting and the innate sorcery. So for instance, innate sorcery, spell save DC of your sorcerer spells increases by 1. You have an advantage on the attack rolls of sorcerer spells you cast. So that's pretty much innate sorcery, and of course spell casting is the the ability to cast spells basically. And then then at level 2 you get font of magic and meta magic. So for instance, meta magic, it has a couple paragraphs, it pretty much in a sense goes through all those abilities and gives descriptions of them. So spell slots, you obviously have a spell slot spell slots and it goes up as you level up and everything. So usually at first level you have a 4 cantrips, which are a level 0. So mainly a ray of frost, or your color spray, or you're pretty much your kind of low level spells that are just kind of for instance ray of frost, off the top of my head I want to say 1d4 maybe, or 2d4 or something. Someone correct me with that, the actual how it's written, but it's just kind of a poke, kind of the easy casting spells that kind of add a little extra damage. So that's the cantrips. Prepared spells, you get 2, and you have 2 level 1s. And then as you level up to level 2, you get a third level 1 spell. And then at level 3, you get a fourth, and then 2 second levels, and you work your way up till when you get all the way up to a level 17, you start to get the level 9 magic spells. And of course it seems 17 is the cutoff for a lot of stuff and everything. So, but then at level 20, going from levels 1 to 9, you get 4 1, 3 2, 3 3, 3 4, 3 5, 2 6, 2 7, 1 8, and 1 9, and you have 22 prepared spells with 6 cantrips. And so the sorcery points, you get 20 sorcery points. So kind of looking at this real quick for sorcery points, and font of magic, sorcery points, sorcery points basically acts as a spell slot level, sorcery point cost, minimum sorcerer level. So for instance, a spell slot level of level 1 costs 2 points, level 2 costs 3, level 3 costs 5, level 4 costs 6, and level 5 costs 7. And then the minimum sorcerer level goes from, with that the little table they got here, it goes minimum level 2, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So that's level 2, and of course I said, level 3 you get your subclass and everything. So I'll touch upon those after I go through the rest of this, and then I'm just going to briefly mention the abilities and everything to kind of keep this within the 10-15 minute range that I kind of like to do and everything. So level 4 ability score increase. So now I know in previous iterations it's +2 to 1 ability or +1 to 2 abilities. So you could do that and it says here you gain the ability score improvement feat, which is in later on in the book. So I mean, again, that's something else. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Now you could quite possibly do a homebrew, or you maybe get +3 or something, or you might get +1 every 2 levels or something. It's something you could play around with. But anyway, with 5 you get the sorceress restoration, and then 6 you get a subclass feature. 7 is the sorcery incarnate. 8 is another ability score improvement. 9 you don't really get anything, but you do get one more sorcery point. You do learn more spells and stuff, and then of course 10 you get the meta magic. 11 and 13 you get nothing, but 12 is the ability score improvement. 14 another subclass feature, and 15 is the last one where you don't get any in a sense class feature. And then 17 is meta magic feature, subclass feature at 18, epic boon at 19, and arcane apotheosis at level 20 and everything. So that's pretty much a quick breakdown of the abilities that you get from levels 1 all the way up to level 20. And of course they do offer you a spell class, a spell list for you to be able to choose. I want to be able to get these ones and everything. So it makes it easy right in the class to be able to oh hey, here we go. So anyway, like what's cool about like the classes with this subclasses is that like it helps flesh out your character. So like for instance, like we start off with like the aberrant sorcery. So it might be something that's like abnormal. So this is like for instance, wield unnatural psionic power, and then like go into like the clockwork sorcery. So channel cosmic forces of order. So like adds just a different one, and then like the last two, as you can see pictures here for the two. Draconic sorcery, breathe the magic of dragons, which is usually the I know like at least in third edition was like the go-to, like, oh hey look, you got your magical abilities from your bloodline of being like a descendant of like a dragonborn or something. So that's pretty much the stereotypical sorcerer and everything. But like it doesn't, like with these other subclasses, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that. And the last one is like a wild magic sorcery, which is lets you unleash chaotic magic. So like you can see like wild magic and sorcery and the clockwork sorcery, like basically chaos and order, like the two polar opposites. And then of course like you got the stereotypical draconic sorcery subclass, and then you got the aberrant sorcery, which lets you go down the like psionic power road, sort of like the one of the subclasses, the fighter. So if you like I can't think of it at the top of my head, but if you go back and check my fighter video, you can check that and everything. So that's pretty much like the concept of like the sorcerer. So like and of course like with the wild magic, they got like a whole like a table and everything, so you could really play with the table, the D100, like a wild magic surge. It kind of like in a sense creates that chaotic nature of like the ability of sorcerer ability of spellcast and everything. So now that's just a different way of playing like a arcane spellcaster. Now traditionally it's pretty much been the wizard, and of course like in like for instance, I'll harken way back to second edition. With the wizard you had like your wizard who was like the kind of like the generalist, and then you could sit there and actually get into like the actual schools and everything. Like with second edition, like one of the classes you could play is the gnome illusionist and everything. And of course second edition was really strict on like who what race could play what class. Like for instance, like only humans could be a paladin, and so you kind of had to like okay, well, do more of like a homebrew with second edition. Whereas like starting with third edition, it started to open it up more. Be like, to hell with homebrew and stuff. Here we put stuff in the rules, so that way you don't necessarily have to do that. We get open up the options like much more. So like the old Baldur's Gate games, there's like in Baldur's Gate 2, there was like a halfling fighter that like, it was using the second edition rules, that was pretty much saying like she was a paladin, but based on the second edition rules, she could only be a fighter being a halfling. With and of course, this is kind of going on a tangent with like the subclasses and stuff to kind of end this video real quick. But like this is kind of like going over the sorcerer class this time around. And so like if you're sick and tired of playing your typical like bookworm arcane spellcaster, this would be one of the alternatives that you can go to with like in a sense, instead of like cracking open a book like this and like the good old trope where you're holding a book and like I cast fireball. You're just like, oh hey look, I cast fireball, without the book and everything. So next week we'll pretty much be finishing up the classes with the other arcane spell class that you'll be able to get into. That's kind of like the in a sense a twist on your traditional arcane spellcaster of the wizard.